She was cornered, her back pressed against the cold wooden fence, her wheelchair trembling under her tiny hands. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Please, don't hurt me." And standing over her was HOA Karen, face twisted with rage, fingers stabbing the air like the girl had committed some unforgivable crime. The neighborhood path was empty. No parents, no friends, no escape, just the faint sound of her panicked breathing as Karen stepped closer, blocking the sunlight. But then everything changed. A deep growl rolled across the quiet street. Heavy boots thudded against the pavement. And when Karen turned, her confidence shattered. A battle-scarred veteran stood behind her, a service dog at his side. Muscles tense, eyes locked onto Karen like he had seen monsters like her before. And in that moment, the disabled girl realized she wasn't alone anymore. Someone had finally stepped in. Before we begin, let me ask you something important. Backhand index pointing right, which city are you watching this video from? Drop the name of your city in the comments. I love seeing where my viewers are tuning in from across the USA. And hey, if you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It helps the channel grow, and it ensures you never miss another emotional, justice-filled story like this one. All right, now let's begin exactly where the title starts. It was a quiet fall afternoon, the kind where the leaves drift gently across the sidewalk, and everything looks peaceful on the surface. But behind that calm neighborhood charm, something dark was brewing. 12-year-old Lily, a sweet disabled girl with a heart bigger than her body, had rolled out to the park path behind her house. She loved the fresh air, the sunlight, the feeling of independence, even if she needed her wheelchair to get around. But that day, her freedom came with a cost, because she wasn't alone, and the person watching her wasn't kind. HOA Karen, the woman everyone in the neighborhood avoided, had a reputation. She controlled the HOA like a dictator, picking fights, issuing warnings, and targeting anyone she thought didn't fit her standards. And when she saw Lily sitting peacefully, simply existing, Karen snapped. What happened next was something no one expected. Lily had always been gentle, soft-spoken, careful, and mindful of everyone around her. She never liked causing problems, never wanted to upset anyone. That afternoon, she pushed her wheelchair slowly along the little pathway behind her house, savoring the warmth of the sunlight as it touched her face. Her fingers brushed the autumn leaves that had fallen onto her lap, and she smiled to herself. Even though she couldn't run or jump like the other kids, she loved moments like this, moments where her disability didn't matter, moments where she felt free. But freedom in an HOA neighborhood came with rules, and rules came with Karen. Karen had been patrolling the community for years, wearing her authority like armor. She believed she owned the sidewalks, the street corners, and even the air people breathed. Everyone had complained at least once. Everyone had suffered at her hands. But the worst part was how she targeted the vulnerable, people who couldn't fight back. Single moms, elderly neighbors, teenagers, and now, Lily. Karen's heels clicked against the pavement as she walked toward the little park space at the end of the road. She wasn't heading anywhere special, she just liked checking the area for violations. To her, every leaf on the sidewalk, every misplaced toy, every sound a child made was an offense. And when she spotted Lily sitting alone, her brows furrowed immediately. "What do you think you're doing out here?" she snapped, her voice slicing through the peaceful afternoon like a blade. Lily froze. She hadn't expected anyone, especially her. She turned her wheelchair slightly, adjusting her posture. I'm just getting some air." Karen marched closer. "You can't just sit here," she spat. "This is private HOA property. You're blocking the pathway." Lily's breath hitched. Blocking the pathway? The road was completely empty. I can move," Lily stuttered, gently pushing her wheels to roll aside. But Karen stepped in front of her, slamming her hand against the wooden fence behind Lily. The thud echoed, making Lily flinch. "You think this is a playground for kids in wheelchairs?" Karen barked. "We have rules. Your mother should have taught you better." Lily's heart hammered against her ribs. She wasn't used to confrontations. She wasn't used to adults yelling, especially not like this, so close, so aggressive. Her eyes stung, but she blinked fast, trying to hide the tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Please don't be mad." "Oh, I'm already mad," Karen hissed, leaning in. "Every time you're out here, you draw attention. People complain. They don't want to see." She waved her hand dismissively at Lily's wheelchair. "This in common areas." Lily's breath caught in her throat. Shame washed over her like cold water. She wrapped her arms around herself protectively. "I'll go home," she whispered. "I didn't mean to bother anyone." "You already did," Karen snarled. "And I'm not finished. I'm filing a violation against your mother. She clearly can't control you. Honestly, you kids think you can do anything because you're special." The way she said special felt like a slap. Lily looked away, her jaw trembling. "I'm sorry," she said again, because it was the only thing she could think to say, the only defense she had. Karen bent down suddenly, her face inches from Lily's. "You're always a problem," she hissed. "Always." Lily's heartbeat thudded so loudly she could barely hear anything else. Her chest tightened. The world felt smaller. Her wheelchair felt like a trap instead of a seat. She lifted her shaking hands in front of her chest. Please," she whispered helplessly. "Please don't hurt me." Karen straightened, her eyes flashing with triumph. She loved that look, fear. She fed on it. "Oh, now you're scared," she mocked. "Good. Maybe now you'll think twice before rolling around like you own the place." Lily recoiled. She tried shifting her wheelchair backward, but her wheels caught a clump of leaves, causing her chair to jerk. Panic rose in her like a wave. "I said I'm sorry," she pleaded. "Please let me go home." Karen stepped even closer, towering over her. Her shadow fell completely over Lily, blocking out the sun. "You don't call the shots here," Karen barked. "I do. You move when I say you move." That was when Lily's voice finally broke. Tears streamed silently down her cheeks, dripping onto her shirt. She pressed her hands to her face, wishing she could disappear, wishing she could be anywhere but here. But she couldn't run. She couldn't escape. She was trapped, and Karen loved every second of it. But then something shifted in the air. A sound, a very low, very deep growl. It rumbled like thunder from a distance. Karen's expression faltered. She stiffened, turning her head slowly. At the end of the pathway, a large German shepherd stood still as a statue, fur bristling, eyes locked on Karen. Beside him, holding the leash with a firm, controlled grip, was a man, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a worn leather jacket and a dog tag glinting against his chest. His face had the kind of heaviness only years of service could carve into a person. His stance was balanced, grounded, like someone who had faced worse threats than Karen could ever imagine. And he was watching everything. The veteran took one step forward, then another. His boots struck the pavement with deliberate weight. The dog's growl grew deeper. Lily lifted her head, blinking through tears. Relief washed over her, but fear still lingered. Karen snapped back into her false confidence, lifting her chin. "Can I help you?" she demanded loudly. "This is HOA business." The man didn't react. His eyes stayed locked on Lily, on her trembling hands, her tear-streaked face, the sheer terror in her posture. His jaw tightened. "Step away from the girl," he said, voice calm but sharp enough to cut concrete. Karen scoffed. "Excuse me? You don't order me around. I'm on official HOA." The dog suddenly barked, loud, booming, protective. Karen jumped back, her heels slipping slightly. The veteran's voice dropped, darker. Cold, unmistakably commanding. "I said step away." Karen's eyes widened. For the first time, fear sparked behind them. Lily's heartbeat slowed, not from calm, but from sudden, overwhelming hope, because someone was finally standing between her and the danger. Someone strong, someone unafraid, someone who wouldn't let Karen hurt her again. And for the first time since the confrontation began, Lily didn't feel alone. The air around them shifted, thickened, charged with a tension that neither Karen nor Lily fully understood yet. The veteran stood tall, broad, unmoving, like an immovable wall planted between danger and innocence. His German shepherd, Max, maintained a low, rumbling growl that vibrated through the air like distant thunder. Anyone with sense would have stepped back. Anyone with even a grain of humanity would have realized the gravity of the moment. But Karen wasn't anyone. Karen was Karen. She straightened her blazer, smoothed her hair, and attempted to regain the superiority she always clung to. "Sir," she began sharply, "I'm handling an HOA matter here. You need to." The veteran didn't let her finish. "That's a terrified child," he said, pointing at Lily with a slow, controlled gesture that carried more power than shouting ever could. "I watched you corner her. I heard you threaten her." His voice dropped lower. "So, unless the HOA hired you to bully children in wheelchairs, you're done here." Lily blinked, trying to wipe her tears with shaking fingers. She had never heard anyone talk to Karen like that. It felt surreal, like watching a hero step out of a movie screen. Karen scoffed, but the crack in her confidence was clear. "I didn't threaten her," she snapped. "I was enforcing HOA rules." She was blocking the walkway. She pointed dramatically at the wide, empty path. "This is a safety hazard." The veteran looked at the path, then at Lily, then back at Karen, with the slow, disbelieving stare of a man who had encountered truly dangerous situations and knew this wasn't one of them. "She's a child," he said, emphasizing each word. "In a wheelchair, on a sidewalk, enjoying some fresh air." His muscles tensed beneath his jacket. "And you're calling her a hazard?" Karen crossed her arms. "I don't expect a stranger to understand community standards." Max barked sharply, causing her to flinch again. The veteran didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. "I understand bullies," he said quietly. "I've seen them overseas. I've seen them in uniform. And I've seen them right here in neighborhoods just like this." His eyes narrowed. "And I know exactly what kind of person corners a disabled child and makes her cry." Karen opened her mouth to retort, but nothing came out. The words died in her throat. Lily swallowed hard, still trembling, but the veteran's presence was like a warm shield around her. "What's your name?" he asked gently, turning to her without taking his attention off Karen completely. "Lily," she whispered. He nodded slowly. "I'm James. And this is Max." Max took a step closer, tail stiff but protective, eyes alert. Lily managed a tiny smile. Then James looked back at Karen. "Step away from her." Karen bristled. "This is harassment," she exclaimed. "You can't just jump into HOA matters. I have the authority to—" "You have authority over landscaping and mailboxes," James interrupted, his tone like steel. "Not children." Karen's face reddened, the flush creeping up her neck. She was used to barking orders, used to people obeying her simply to avoid conflict. But James was not one of those people. She jetted her chin forward. "I can file a report against both of you," she threatened. "I can have the HOA board involved, security called." James took one step closer. Just one. And Karen stumbled back, as if someone had shoved her. "You're not calling anyone," he said quietly, "because you know exactly how this would look. You cornered a disabled girl. You made her cry. And if I hadn't come along," his jaw clenched, "what were you planning to do then?" Karen stuttered. "I wasn't going to do anything. She was." James tilted his head slightly. "Say it," he challenged. "Say why you were really angry at her." Karen looked from James to Max to Lily. Her lips wobbled. She couldn't say it. She couldn't admit out loud that she saw Lily as an eyesore, as someone who ruined the community aesthetic, as someone who didn't meet her warped standard of perfection. Her silence spoke louder than any confession. James leaned slightly forward. "That's what I thought." The shame that washed over Karen's face was brief, but it was there, and Lily saw it. For the first time, she saw Karen stumble beneath someone else's strength. Lily tried to speak, voice thin and shaky. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." James crouched beside her, placing a gentle hand on the armrest of her wheelchair. "You didn't cause anything," he said. "You were just being a kid." A tear rolled down Lily's cheek, this time from relief, not fear. Karen tried to salvage her pride. "This isn't over," she declared, stepping back with a forced smirk. The HOA won't be happy about this. James stood tall again. Neither will the police, he said calmly. Want to test which one shows up faster? Karen froze. James took a breath, steady but deadly serious. I have half a mind to report you myself, but I'm giving you one chance to walk away. Max growled softly, reinforcing the warning. Karen's jaw clenched. She lifted her chin, glared at Lily, then at James, and turned sharply on her heel. Her heels clacked against the pavement as she speed-walked away, pretending she still held power. But everyone knew she didn't. Lily exhaled shakily, her entire body relaxing like someone had just lifted a crushing weight from her shoulders. James looked down at her with softness that contrasted his tough exterior. Are you all right? He asked. I think so, Lily whispered. Max nudged her leg gently, tail swishing. She let out a small, surprised laugh. You're safe now, James assured her. But even as he spoke the words, a dark thought flickered across his eyes. One Lily didn't catch. Karen wasn't done. People like her never walked away without coming back. And deep down, James knew this confrontation was only the beginning. Lily's breathing was still shaky, uneven, each inhale sounding like it came from a chest that had forgotten how to expand properly. Even though Karen was gone, Lily's body hadn't caught up to the reality yet. Her fingers trembled around the wheels of her chair, her shoulders hunched instinctively, as if still preparing to be yelled at. Trauma doesn't leave instantly. It lingers like a shadow, even after the monster disappears. James stayed kneeling beside her for a moment, letting her gather herself at her own pace. Max, sensing the fear still clinging to her, rested his head gently on her knee, a wordless reassurance that she wasn't alone. Lily looked down at him with a small, watery smile, running her fingers through the dog's fur. She had always loved animals, especially dogs, but this felt different. This felt like protection, safety, warmth. You're doing great, kiddo, James said softly, not wanting to overwhelm her. Take your time. Lily nodded, wiping her cheeks with the back of her sleeve. I didn't think anyone would come, she whispered. She always scares people away. James glanced in the direction Karen had stormed off. I don't scare easy. Lily swallowed. Most grown-ups stay quiet. They just watch. Sometimes they pretend they didn't see anything. James felt something twist in his chest, a familiar bitterness. He'd seen this pattern before, of bullies being loud and victims being invisible, of bystanders choosing silence over decency. It was the same dynamic he'd witnessed too many times during his military years, and even back home. Well, he said gently, lucky for you I'm not most grown-ups. Lily managed a tiny giggle, the first sign her body was starting to unclench from the fear. But then, slowly her expression crumbled, her lips wobbled, her chin quivered, and suddenly, like a wave finally breaking after holding itself back far too long, Lily burst into quiet sobs. Her entire body folded in on itself as she cried, deep, painful, heaving breaths of relief, fear, confusion, and exhaustion mixing together. She tried covering her mouth to hide the sound, but it still came through in trembling gasps. I thought she was going to hurt me, she sobbed. I couldn't move. I couldn't get away. James nodded with understanding, not interrupting, not telling her to stop crying. He had learned long ago that sometimes people needed to break before they could breathe again. You're safe now, he reminded her calmly. She can't touch you. But she always finds a way, Lily whispered through tears. She always picks on us. On me. On Mom. She says we don't belong here. She says we're lowering the neighborhood's value. James felt a surge of anger burn through his stomach, but he kept his tone steady for Lily's sake. She's wrong. And she's cruel. And she doesn't get to decide who belongs. Ever. Lily sniffed, her voice small. She scares me. I know, James said, but fear doesn't mean weakness. You stood your ground today. You asked her to stop. Even though you were terrified, you still spoke. Lily blinked up at him. But I cried. So what? He replied gently. Real courage isn't being fearless. It's being scared and still facing it. She looked down again, running her thumb absently over Max's fur. Mom always tells me that. But sometimes it just feels like I'm too much trouble. Like if I wasn't disabled, Karen wouldn't hate us. Those words hit James harder than he expected. He took a slow breath, fighting back his own emotion. Listen to me carefully, he said, placing a hand lightly on the armrest of her chair, so she'd look at him. There is nothing wrong with you. People like Karen, they don't pick targets because something is wrong with you. They pick them because something is wrong with them. Lily's eyes widened, absorbing the weight behind his words. Bullies choose the ones they think they can break, James continued. But every time she does it, she shows how empty she is inside. You're strong just for existing in a world that wasn't built for you. You're stronger than she'll ever be. Silence settled around them for a moment, a silence that wasn't heavy, but healing. Then James finally stood, stretching his legs. Do you live close by? Lily nodded. Just down the path. House number 18. Want me to walk you home? Lily hesitated. She'll be mad if she sees you walk with me. I hope she does, James replied without missing a beat. A small laugh escaped Lily before she could stop it. James helped turn her wheelchair around, and Max walked loyally beside them. Every now and then, Lily's eyes darted nervously around, scanning corners, fences, the tops of houses, as if expecting Karen to jump out again. Trauma is like that, always waiting for the next blow. James noticed. You're safe, he reminded her each time her shoulders tensed. I'm right here. As they moved toward her house, something strange flickered inside Lily, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. For once, she didn't feel like prey. She didn't feel small. She didn't feel like an unwanted problem, because someone powerful cared enough to stand up for her. But as they reached the edge of her yard, her emotions spiked again. Not fear this time, but overwhelming relief. Her house, the place she always felt safest, looked different today. For the first time, it didn't feel like a place she needed to hide inside. It felt like a place she deserved to return to. When they stopped in front of the porch, Lily looked up at James. Thank you, she whispered, for helping me. James shook his head. You don't have to thank me. Standing up for someone who needs it, that's just what people should do. Lily nodded slowly, breathing deeply, still shaky but healing. But as James took one step back, Max suddenly froze. Ears up, body stiff, eyes locked on something behind them. James followed the dog's gaze. A figure stood at the end of the street, rigid, unmoving, watching. Karen. Even from this distance, Lily recognized the shape. Her breath caught again, panic squeezing her chest. James immediately stepped in front of her. It's okay, he murmured. But Karen didn't walk away this time. She just stared, her face cold, calculating, like a storm waiting for the right moment to strike. And in that chilling silence, James realized something Lily had been too afraid to say out loud. Karen wasn't just angry. She was planning something, and the real fight hadn't even begun yet. James didn't move. Max didn't blink, and Lily didn't breathe. Karen stood at the end of the street, arms crossed, posture stiff, a sinister stillness surrounding her like a dark fog. She wasn't yelling this time. She wasn't stamping her feet or swinging her clipboard like a sword. No, this was something worse. She was quiet, and people like her were most dangerous when they went quiet. James recognized that look instantly. The cold calculation, the silent rage simmering beneath a perfectly still expression. He had seen it in conflict zones, in men who planned cruelty with the calmness of breathing. Karen wasn't done. She was thinking, plotting, deciding. James gently touched Lily's shoulder. Go inside, kiddo. Lily swallowed hard. Is she gonna come back? Not if I can help it. Lily hesitated, then wheeled herself toward the porch. Before going inside, she turned back to James with wide, worried eyes. Will you be okay? James gave her a small smile. I've handled worse than HOA, Karen. That earned a tiny laugh before she disappeared through her front door. But James didn't laugh. The moment Lily was safe inside, his expression hardened. The veteran in him, alert, calculating, protective, clicked into place. Max stood beside him, Tail stiff, ears pointed forward. Easy, boy, James murmured. Karen hadn't budged. She simply shifted her weight slightly, chin raised in a silent dare. Then she turned and walked away. Not rushed, not frantic. Slow, purposeful, controlled. James watched until she vanished around the corner. Something wasn't adding up. Something about her reaction, the venom behind her silence, told him this wasn't just about a girl in a wheelchair or a pathway dispute. This felt older, darker, personal. So he walked Max home, sat down at his kitchen table, and made a decision. He was going to find out exactly who Karen was, and what made her so unhinged. James wasn't the type to snoop normally, but when a grown woman cornered a disabled child, when she used fear as a weapon, when her anger looked like it was built over years instead of moments, he knew something deeper was wrong. He grabbed his laptop, poured himself a mug of black coffee, and began digging. Step 1. Public HOA records. He typed in the neighborhood's name, the list of board members, and scrolled until he saw her name. Karen Waldron. HOA president, 6 years. 6 years, he muttered to himself. Nobody lasts that long unless the residents are scared of them. Scrolling further, he discovered a pattern. Multiple anonymous complaints filed by Karen, often against families she personally disliked. A long paper trail of disputes with residents who had children, pets, or disabilities. At least 4 neighbors had moved within the last year, citing HOA pressure. It was a monopoly of fear. Step 2. Public incident reports. He found 2 noise complaints she filed against a family with autistic twins. A violation she issued to a man with Parkinson's because he didn't mow his lawn evenly. A harassment warning from a mother of a toddler Karen accused of disturbing the neighborhood peace. James exhaled slowly. This woman has a history. But the worst part came next. Step 3. Court records. James searched her name again, this time with public legal documents. Karen Waldron had filed 2 restraining orders, both against neighbors who had confronted her. Multiple lawsuits claiming emotional distress from normal community interactions. A defamation suit against a teenage girl who made fun of her on social media. But then James found something he didn't expect. A record from 8 years ago. An arrest, classified under child endangerment. James leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Well. He opened the document and his breath caught. Karen had once worked at a community daycare. She had been fired and later arrested for verbally abusing a child with a disability. A boy in a wheelchair. A boy who resembled Lily far too closely. James leaned back in his chair, his jaw tightening. That's it, he whispered. That's why she targeted Lily. She's done this before. He stared at the screen, the truth settling like ice in his veins. Karen wasn't just cruel. She wasn't just power-hungry. She had a specific hatred, sharp, personal, toward disabled children. And now she lived in a neighborhood where one vulnerable girl was an easy target. James clenched his jaw. No way was this continuing. He printed the documents, highlighted the most incriminating parts, and clipped them together. Then he called someone he hadn't spoken to in months. Hey, this is James Ryder, he said into the phone. Yeah, I need a favor. I found something about a woman in my neighborhood. Child endangerment record. Need you to confirm if anything else is sealed. A moment of silence. Then, on it. James hung up and glanced at Max. This isn't just an HOA problem anymore. Max barked softly in agreement. The next morning, James walked outside early, hoping to check on Lily before school hours. But as he stepped onto the sidewalk, he noticed something instantly. Lily's family's mailbox was covered in bright red violation notices. 6 of them, all from Karen, all printed within the last 12 hours. James grabbed the papers and skimmed them. Unauthorized presence on HOA walkway. Noise disturbance from wheelchair movement. Visual obstruction. Neglect of community, aesthetics. He couldn't even finish reading, the rage burned too hot. That's it, he growled. She's escalating. He knocked on Lily's door. Her mother, Emily, answered, hair messy, eyes tired, holding a violation notice in her hand. Hi, James, right? She said weakly. I don't know what happened. We woke up to all these papers. Is this normal? Is Karen allowed to do this? James shook his head firmly. No, she's targeting you. And I'm not letting her get away with it. Emily exhaled shakily. She's been doing this for years, but it's never been this bad. Lily barely slept last night. James softened. Let me handle this. Please. Emily hesitated. Why are you helping us? You don't even know us. James met her eyes. No child deserves what she did yesterday, he said, and no mother should have to fight this alone. Emily blinked away tears. Thank you. James nodded. But before anything else, I need to tell you something about Karen. He handed her the printed file. Emily scanned it, eyes widening, breath catching. She did this before, she whispered. To another child? James nodded grimly. And I'm betting she's not done. Emily looked toward the window, voice trembling. What does she want from us? James clenched his fists. That's what I intend to find out. Because one thing was clear. Karen wasn't acting out of boredom. She wasn't acting out of frustration. She was acting out of a dark, hidden hatred. A hatred with a past. A hatred with a pattern. A hatred now aimed directly at Lily. And James knew. The next confrontation wouldn't be verbal. It would be war. The sun had barely begun its descent when the neighborhood changed. The quiet suburban calm, usually broken only by the chirping of crickets or the distant hum of passing cars, felt tense, charged, like the moments before a storm tears open the sky. James felt it instantly. Veterans develop a sixth sense for danger. It's something that never leaves. When the air shifts, when silence becomes too heavy, when the instinct kicks, he knows. And tonight, that instinct was screaming. He had spent the day helping Emily organize the violation papers and documenting everything for formal complaint. But beneath the paperwork, beneath the calm reassurances, he felt it brewing deep inside. Karen wasn't done. People like her didn't retreat. They regrouped. As evening settled, James took Max out for a walk around the block, part routine, part recon. He watched the shadows, scanned the driveways, studied the corners. Everything appeared normal until he reached the park path where he had first found Lily. He stopped cold. A fresh tire mark, a scraped fence, and something small lying near the grass. A broken piece of Lily's wheelchair footplate. James's jaw tightened. His pulse spiked with a mixture of fear and fury. Max, he whispered. The dog sniffed the air, ears rising. He pulled the leash toward the darker side of the path, tail rigid, body alert. That's when James saw it. A figure, standing near the far end of the path. Still, watching. Karen, not lurking behind a tree, not hiding her presence, just standing there, arms crossed, chin raised, a smirk twisting her lips under the dim streetlight. But this time, something was different. Something about her posture. Something about the way her eyes glowed with manic precision. She wasn't angry anymore. She was certain. Ready. James stepped forward. What did you do? Karen didn't flinch. Oh, James, she replied with a mocking sweetness. Always playing the hero. She shifted her weight, tilting her head. Where's your little friend? The girl in the wheelchair? James clenched his fists. You stay away from her. Karen chuckled softly. I'm not the one who should be worried. Her voice dropped, cold and cutting. Your little investigation of me? Yeah, I know about it. You think the HOA board won't tell me everything you're doing? She tapped her temple. I'm smarter than you think. Max growled low. James took another step closer. If you touched Lily's wheelchair, if you came near her house, Karen raised a hand to silence him. What are you going to do? Call the police? Please. She laughed thinly. The cops don't care about HOA problems. They never have. This isn't an HOA problem anymore, James warned. Karen's smirk widened. Oh, but it is. And guess what? She leaned forward, almost whispering, I always win. James's stomach tightened. He knew threats well. But Karen wasn't just threatening. She was promising. Then she said something that chilled him to the bone. You shouldn't worry about Lily. Pause. You should worry about what happens to people who interfere. James's eyes hardened. People like me don't scare easily. That's what makes this fun, Karen hissed. Before James could reply, Max lunged forward, not attacking but stepping between James and Karen, posture protective, bark sharp, and echoing. Karen flinched, taking several steps back before her facade returned. You know, she said, brushing off her jacket, you won't always be around to protect her. She turned, beginning to walk away, and when you're not. She didn't finish. She didn't have to. The threat hung in the air like poison. James didn't move until she disappeared around the corner. He rushed back to Lily's house, Max pulling ahead. He knocked rapidly, and Emily opened within seconds, panic already written on her face. What happened? Is Lily home? James asked. Emily nodded. She's inside, drawing. Why? James took a breath. Karen was waiting for me. On the path. She knows about the investigation. And she's planning something. Emily's hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God. James stepped inside, closing the door behind him. We can't wait anymore. We need to prepare. Emily stared at him. Prepare for what? For her to escalate, James said, tonight, tomorrow, soon. She's not backing down. Emily trembled. But what does she want? James exhaled. Control. Power. And she loses both if I expose her. Then Lily appeared at the top of the stairs, clutching her blanket, eyes filled with worry. Is she outside again? James softened his tone instantly. Not near you, sweetheart. But we're going to keep you safe. I promise. Lily wheeled closer. She didn't try to hurt Max, did she? James shook his head. No, Max is fine. Lily bit her lip. She looked at me through the window earlier. I thought I imagined it. Emily gasped. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't want to cause more trouble, Lily whispered. James knelt in front of her. You're not trouble. She is. But Lily wasn't done. Her voice turned very small. Mom, she pushed my wheelchair earlier today, when you were inside on the phone. Emily froze. What? It almost tipped, Lily whispered. I didn't tell you because I thought you'd cry. Emily dropped to her knees and hugged her daughter tightly. Baby, you can't hide things like that from me. James's blood ran cold. Karen had touched her wheelchair. She did attempt harm, and the broken footplate confirmed it. James stood. I'm not letting her come near this house again. Then, suddenly, a loud clang echoed outside. Emily jumped. Lily gasped. Max barked violently, lunging toward the front door. James sprinted to the window and looked out. Trash cans had been shoved over. Lights flickered. A dark silhouette darted between driveways. Karen. She wasn't hiding anymore. She was taunting them. James grabbed his jacket. Stay inside. Lock the doors. Emily's voice cracked. James, don't go out there. But he already had. The veteran in him surged to the surface, the protector, the soldier, the man who had seen evil and refused to let it breathe. Max raced beside him into the night. The war Karen had been planning had officially begun. James bolted into the night with Max sprinting at his side, the chill in the air cutting across his skin like warning blades. The neighborhood that always tried to look perfect, fresh lawns, trimmed hedges, spotless sidewalks, felt twisted now, shadows stretched long and sharp beneath flickering street lamps. The storm wasn't coming. The storm was already here. He followed the direction of the silhouette, moving between the driveways. Karen wasn't fast, but she was deliberate, darting behind bushes, slipping between parked cars, knocking over anything she could reach. Metal lids clattered. Dogs barked in their yards. She wanted chaos. She wanted attention. She wanted fear. Max let out a deep growl, nose tracking her out. The dog pulled James forward, almost dragging him. Easy, James whispered. We get her smart, not sloppy. But his blood boiled. Lily's cracked voice, she pushed my wheelchair, echoed in his mind. And Karen's earlier threat tightened around his ribs like a vice. No more. Tonight it ends. They rounded the corner into the cul-de-sac, and there she was, standing beneath a streetlight, arms spread dramatically, as if welcoming him to her stage. Her shadow stretched behind her like a monstrous wing. She smiled, not the condescending smirk she wore during HOA meetings, but something darker, something unhinged. Took you long enough, she said. James stepped closer, slow and controlled. What are you trying to do? Teach you a lesson. Her voice was sweet, poisonous, dripping arrogance. This neighborhood is mine. My rules. My standards. My peace. And you. She jabbed her finger at him. You ruined everything. Max barked sharply, teeth bared. Karen didn't flinch. Oh, please. Put your mud away. He doesn't scare me. James's jaw flexed. You threatened a child. She's not a child, Karen spat. She's a burden. A disruption. A constant reminder that people like her shouldn't live in perfect communities. James took a step forward, fists tightening. You pushed her wheelchair. You damaged her equipment. You terrorized her mother. And now you're stalking their house. Stalking. She laughed loudly, head thrown back. I'm observing. Protecting the neighborhood. Her laughter sliced the air. If you weren't here, she'd be gone already. James froze. Gone. Karen smirked. Oh, don't pretend you don't know what I mean. I've gotten rid of neighbors. Before. People forget how easy it is to make someone leave. And children. James asked quietly. Do they forget that too? Her eyes gleamed. Kids are even easier. Parents panic fast. James's entire body turned cold. She admitted it. She liked frightening children. She liked manipulating mothers. She liked control. James stepped closer. You were fired from a daycare because you emotionally abused disabled kids. Karen didn't react. You were arrested for endangerment. Karen blinked slowly. You left a boy traumatized. Karen smiled. Good, she whispered. He needed it. Those words changed everything. The police report wasn't a misunderstanding. Her cruelty wasn't a mistake. This wasn't stress, frustration, or bad temperament. This was who she truly was. James took a deep breath and pulled something from inside his jacket. A folder sealed in a clear plastic sleeve. He tossed it at her feet. It slid across the pavement. What's that? Karen snapped. Copies of your record, James said. Printed. Highlighted. Documented. Already sent to the HOA board, the county office, the neighborhood group chat, and the police. For the first time, the very first time, Karen's confidence cracked. Her voice shook. You wouldn't. I already did, James replied. Karen lunged toward the folder, flipping it open. Her face paled as she saw her own past staring back at her in bold black ink. This is illegal, she shrieked. No, James said. Child protection records are public when charges aren't sealed. And guess what? Yours weren't sealed. The parents wanted the world to know. Karen's breathing quickened. Her chest heaved. Her perfect facade crumbled. You think you can ruin me? She screamed. You ruined yourself, James replied calmly. You think people will believe this? They already do. No, she shouted, voice breaking. This is MY neighborhood. She stomped her foot. I built everything here. I protected it. Protected it from what? James demanded. Children in wheelchairs? Mothers struggling to pay bills? Veterans walking dogs? You're not protecting anything. You're destroying it. Karen trembled with fury. I'll fix everything. I'll clean this place up. Starting with. Max lunged forward, growling viciously. Karen froze. James stepped between them. Starting with who? Karen? She stared at him with wide, hateful eyes. Starting with the problem. She whispered it so quietly it barely carried through the night. Lily. James closed the distance between them. He leaned forward, his voice low and sharp. If you ever go near that house again, if you even walk down that street. He paused, his voice growing darker. You won't be dealing with HOA complaints. You'll be dealing with me. Karen backed up slowly, hands shaking. Why you can't threaten me? I'm not threatening, James said. I'm promising. Then, suddenly, red and blue lights emerged at the end of the street. A police cruiser. Then another. Emily must have called. Or a neighbor saw Karen's chaos and reported it. Maybe it was the broken trash cans. Maybe the shouting. Maybe someone finally snapped and tipped authorities off. Officers approached. Karen tried straightening herself. Oh, thank goodness you're here, she cried dramatically. This man, this violent man, and his dangerous dog. An officer cut her off. Ma'am, we received multiple reports about you. Karen blinked. What? Suspicious activity. Harassment. Trespassing. Property damage. No, she screamed. You don't understand. I'm the HOA president. We know, the officer said. Everyone mentioned that. Her face fell. The officer turned to James. Sir, are you the one who filed the complaint earlier today? Yes, James said. The officer nodded. We reviewed the documentation, and we'll be taking her in for questioning immediately. Karen's mouth fell open. You can't arrest me. We can detain you, the officer corrected, and depending on what we find, the charges may escalate. Karen started shaking. You can't do this. I'm the one who enforces the rules. The officers took her by the arms. No, James said quietly. You broke them. Karen screamed as they escorted her to the cruiser. You can't do this to me. The door slammed shut. Silence filled the night. James exhaled slowly and rubbed Max's head. Good boy. Max barked softly, tail wagging. James watched the police car drive away. He didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He just felt peace. For the first time since this nightmare started, Lily was truly safe. But the most important moment was still ahead, facing the girl he helped protect, the girl who thought no one would ever stand up for her. Tonight, justice wasn't just paperwork. Tonight, justice had a heartbeat. If this story moved you, if you felt Lily's fear, her pain, her strength, and the justice she finally received, then don't let it end here. Stories like this deserve to be heard, so more people understand the importance of standing up for the vulnerable. Backhand index pointing right, drop a comment, and tell me which city you're watching from. Backhand index pointing right, share this video with someone who believes in doing the right thing. Backhand index pointing right, and most importantly, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another emotional, powerful story where justice wins and courage rises. Your support keeps these stories alive.